Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're taking a look at another issue of Hobby Japan. This one is actually going back to the December 2020 issue, actually about a year ago now. I didn't get it at the time. I ended up getting this later, and that's basically because of what you see right here on the front. I've seen this guy's account on Twitter, and I've seen photos of this hobby workspace on Twitter, and I just really like the design of this space. And then because I saw that it's featured in this issue is really why I wanted to pick this up, because I wanted to have some other reference images of this hobby space, because this is the kind of space that I'm hoping to make something along the lines of this, something similar to this in my new hobby studio once we are moved back to the US. So basically I just wanted this for some design inspiration. That said, now that I've got it and I've actually kind of leafed through this a little bit, there's actually not that much of this in the issue. The theme of the issue is just the base, about the display base. So like this one here, you see like the base of that, the base. So that's actually what it's about. So there's actually not that much in here about this, unfortunately. But this is the December 2020 issue. 1,000 yen is the list price for this. There's the front. Here's a doll advertisement here on the back. And let's get into it. So as you guys know, with the monthly magazine issues, it's just a lot of advertisements mostly for new products that are coming out. So that's obviously all out of date now, and we're not going to spend too much time on that, but we'll just see, kind of go back a year and see what was coming out at the time, just for our own interest. Here's the Blu-ray version of Votams that was coming out. That came out last February, I guess. Here's our table of contents. I did check this little note here, and basically it was just saying about the cover art that he wanted to do something different, in that it was his first time to like take the opportunity to really photograph like a space rather than just focusing on the model itself. So he really took pleasure in doing like a different kind of photograph for the cover of the magazine, which I agree is a cool concept, because the theme of this issue is about the display base, and you can see a couple here throughout the background of this image, but it's cool just to see them in the actual hobby space. I wish that would have been the theme of the issue. Then I think they should do that in an issue in the future, an issue just talking about people's workspace, because that's always interesting. I don't know if you guys find that interesting, but I find it interesting to see people's workspace. So here's another image of that, and this is, like I said, going to be kind of the extent of that. There's not really too much else to see. But he's got his table here, which I think you can see. No, it's a different angle. I think it's the opposite angle of this room here. Like I said, I've seen some other pictures on Twitter. This is the opposite angle, so it looks just like the desk with the window and a couple of hanging plants there. I think it looks very nice and pleasant, like a nice space to work. I like it very clean as well, too. Just got a couple of books over here. Not overly cluttered. I think that's what I'm going to try to shoot for in the future. But so it starts off with just some basics, making some very basic bases here for your 30 minutes missions kits. You got your rotating display stand. That's basically the exact same like what I use for my reviews and stuff. You've got like your display boxes that would keep it like encased. Are nice, so then they don't get dusty. And you've got like stuff made out of wood, and then you can make things with different weathering products. So we've also got the new like customized scene display bases from Bandai that are like specifically made for 30 minutes mission stuff, and other similarly scaled things from Tomitech. Tomitech makes a bunch of, I believe those are in like 1 to 150 scale, so they're slightly different from 1 to 144 scale, but very similar. And correct me if I'm wrong on that, but so here we are creating a base using a few of the like desert sand base plates from 30 Minutes Missions line. So of course there's segments, so using 6 of them together, gotta glue them together and then fill in with some putty and sand to get rid of the seams between. It looks like he's also using some just CA glue in between there. Sanding to get rid of the lines, and then using some Tamiya weathering products like a weathering paste there to just kind of paint that on there and give it some more texture. And painting in using some pigment, it looks like, in there as well, just to give it a kind of like rough sandy texture. And then using a little bit of rock, painting up the rocks a little bit, using a little bit of foliage in there, and you got a pretty simple base, which can work well just for different displays. So if you want to just use this as not like a permanent display base, but just one that you can like kind of change the kits up to do a couple of different poses. So he's got 3 different poses laid out here for that. So it's kind of nice to make a display base like that that's not like set in stone, as it were, for one particular model or one particular pose, but it's just something that you can use for photographs. This one's very cool. A Master Rider Hibiki and a forest base. So I really like that forest base. It's very detailed. They got a bunch of stuff on there, and it looks a mess. I would hate to have to actually try to move this thing, because I would just be scared of everything just coming off all over the place. But Here's a look at some of the materials he used. So like cork, some actual like dried out pieces of wood, some kind of moss and wood chips, things like that for all this. I don't have a lot of experience with this, but as I've heard from people who do, and just kind of the general sentiment is like, for making any sort of like forest scene or anything like that, the more stuff you have in there, the more realistic it's going to look. So it looks like there's a lot of stuff in it, but as you can see, like with the finished result, it does look very nice. So there's a few like steps along the way here with like the wood and the corkboard, laying that out first to kind of get the general shape, mixing up your mush, which is going to be like what is supposed to look like dirt there, basically filling that in kind of in between, filling in some more stuff just for like the ground, and then putting in a couple like root pieces there, filling that in some more, then scattering some moss over that, and there you go. Looks great. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. And then here's some more photos of that so you can see, and there's like he added a couple other little plants and stuff in there. Works very nicely for this Figurized standard kit there from Bandai. Next, we got something a little bit different, totally different here, the Great Zero Mer and a Dimension Link base. So this is going to be something, obviously, where he's using an LED light in there and using that for a base, which of course looks really cool with that kit. If you guys are wondering about this kit, this is a Max Factory kit from Good Smile Company in the Moderoid line. So it's a pretty wild looking kit. I've contemplated getting it. Obviously, it's very reminiscent of the Penelope. I think if you're just looking at that, it's obviously got some very similar vibes and just the overall shape and design of it, but it's kind of somehow even crazier. So he's laying out the general shape here with like some foam core, basically, and then looks like cutting some plot plate pieces to then just go over the top of that just to kind of give that a plastic exterior that you can work with, and then using this circular dome piece for the top, which I think is just some other just piece of plastic thing that he's got, and then just printed off this bit here in the middle. So pretty creative and works for a very nice effect for that. There's also a little bit in here about the modification to the actual kit, which is interesting to see. So that's cool as well. Then we got some more kind of weathered bases here. This is kind of similar to what we saw at the start with the 30 Minutes Missions base, using some like wood chips and it looks like some like pieces of coral or something in there to kind of build out this little display here that you can use for your Gunpla kits or your other kits. So there's just some kind of simple steps for creating just a nice kind of simple display stand. Here's something, again, kind of switching back to the much less simple aspect. We got like this realistic room display here, like a bedroom. So I love that it's like set in a drawer. That's a kind of cool, just simple setting for like the base. And then it's built up around that. So the outside kind of looks like a shipping container, sort of, and then the inside is just decorated like a room. He's got the coffee table, the bed, some posters on the wall, like a toolbox, the model kit boxes up there, and even the cat up on top. Well, you guys can see that the cat up on top of like the rafter there. So that's very cool. So he's using this, looks like, as a display basically for like photographing his motorcycles. He's got like a kind of little moped or Vespa kind of thing, and then like a motorcycle. He's photographing here in this workspace. It looks very cool. Here's a look at like work in progress photos of like some of the elements, the stool, the amplifier, the toolbox, the coffee table. So it looks like those are all scratch built. Next up we got Meadows Cobblestone. So obviously a meadow and a cobblestone kind of walkway or street scene here for this tank. Pretty self-explanatory, but this would be your kind of more traditional for like scale modeling, armor modeling display that you would use for that. So we'll see how these are made. The meadow one here first, of course, just looks very nice, simple, just like on this plank of wood here basically, which looks like, I don't know, it's like an 8x1 or something, nice piece of wood, and then this slab, what looks like just like a slab of clay on top of that, but I'm assuming it's made from something else here. It looks like it's made of just, again, like some foam board. So cut out a piece of that, and then, yeah, kind of spreading some soft clay all around that, and then going in and adding the foliage, or like the grass, basically, adding some other plants and things, and then some mud and water effects in there to make it look like kind of dried mud. And then for the cobblestone street, this one's also using some foam board. So what you do with the foam board is it's soft enough so you just kind of go along and just cut it up, and then you're cutting it up, and then it ends up looking like cobblestone. So a lot of people will use this. I've seen it for like cobblestone also, if you use for like brick walls and things like that. So it's pretty easy to do that, and then you can just paint right on top of it, and then it looks like bricks. So you can cut out sections of that. This looks like some section of like an actual plastic brick wall that you can get like as a kit, sort of, basically. And so you get that and you cut it up as needed. And as you're cutting it up, you basically end up with like extra little pieces of bricks that you could like have laying around for like broken off parts and things like that. Making some columns there with a wood core and then plow plate or plowboard around the outsides of that to make these columns. And there's your wall. I'm not sure what he used for the ball at the top. It doesn't look like it mentions about that, but I can assume, I don't know, maybe it's just a rolled up ball of putty or something, or I don't know, it's just whatever little plastic ball or something possibly. So I'm just using some different weathering stuff to fill that in, making the street look a little bit more dirty, adding some more plants and things. And there you go. There's a little extra bit here. It looks like they're making some display bases for like a little bit larger, kind of like doll displays for photography. And then a little wrecked city diorama here with a Jagan colored gym in there. And once again, these are using the destroyed factory from Tommy Tech. Oh, these buildings from Tommy Tech, they are 144 scale. I don't know, I didn't see that before, but they're 144 scale. So yeah, if you guys are needing some like destroyed buildings and stuff like this, they do make these kits from Tommy Tech, which will give you like a good like thing to start off of. Then obviously you need to make some more like broken aspects and things like that, like all these little broken bits down there you can see is added in there just to make it look more realistic. But those broken down buildings can work as like a really nice thing to at least get you started off, so that's cool. So like laying out the scene, building up the little like base part here that goes like underneath the building right there. He's got this building like set up on top of this raised area. Okay, this is cool. Like here in this foreground of the diorama, you can see like the ground is made to look like it's kind of broken. So what he did was like use foam core for the main part of the ground underneath the buildings and everything, but for this area where he wanted it to be a little bit more broken, it looks like he made that just out of clay. So just laid out the clay in a just kind of thin plate to let that dry, and then cut out like a corner of that for where he wanted that to fit, and then just break it up so that it looks like broken concrete there. So that's pretty cool, very creative. Adding some more damage and effects and everything onto the buildings, and looks very nice. I really like this kit as well too. It's cool to see the gym command there, I believe that is, then painted up like in Jagan colors. Looks pretty interesting. That's a very cool display base there. Next up, we got a New Yark there. I don't know if that's a spelling mistake or if that's intentionally just meant to be like that, just as a kind of poke, because I think it was like in the anime, it was, I think it was like, I remember hearing something about this, that it was drawn to look similar to New York, actually, that it was like modeled after New York. This scene in the anime, I think, like where Amuro, if I remember correctly, like first meets Char. But anyway, so once again, we got some wrecked buildings with like some broken glass over here. Looks like probably that's just made out of clear plot plate, just cut up and made to look like some broken glass over there, I would imagine. So what's highlighting here, what he's done is basically made a few different areas for setting the kits for making different poses. So he's like left some areas kind of a little bit more blank, some open areas on top of the buildings in the streets where he can have the kits posed in different poses. So he's got like one up here where the Zaku up on an action base and the Gundam's over here, another one where the Zaku's up on top of the building and the Gundam's down on the streets. So for like a versatile base, again, like I talked about earlier, using a base that you can use like for a number of different photographs, a number of different poses, rather than just sticking with one pose in there. So I guess that's kind of the theme of this, is that these are bases that are meant to be, maybe that's why they use, maybe it's just kind of a misinterpretation on my part, that display base, I guess what they're meaning by that is a base that is not like for a specific model necessarily, even though the Zero Mer kind of seemed like that, but bases that can be utilized just for photography of your kits in like multiple kits and multiple poses and all that kind of thing. So I guess maybe that's, so here's looks like just a tip about using your action base for getting some nice angles for your photography. Very cool. The Argama Catapult deck, what we can see on the front of the magazine on the cover. So it looks like a ton of work went into this. So he designed it all out, then cutting out a foam core and cutting out all the plot plating to go on top of that, and then some more details, then some more details, and some more details, and some lights, and that's pretty intense to make this big thing. And then he's doing the pre-shading on all of that, and then painting it, and it's pretty impressive. So there you go. There's the Argama base that we can see on the front. That's very cool. So a ton of work went into that, obviously. That ends up looking super cool and really great for photographing your Zeta series kit. So he's got the Mark II, he's got the Hyakushiki, he's got the Zeta over here. Even some detail up inside of there, which looks really amazing. He's got some crew, all there, of course, in 1/100 scale. This is a 1/100 scale, by the way, so it's quite large, I'd imagine. Obviously, if that's your 1/100 scale kit, this is like about twice the height of that, essentially. So moving on, we got a little bit more kind of simpler base here for this car model, where it looks like you basically use like a clear piece of, looks like just like a acrylic. I'm not sure what the thickness of that is, but like some clear acrylic, essentially cut to the right size, and then sprayed with some clear red, and then polished, and then you're using that just on top of this wood piece there. That looks pretty nice, definitely. Alright, so here's a bit about the Perfect Grade Unleashed Gundam, which was coming out at the time of the release of this magazine, so that's why I've got a big feature about that here. Also, the Bond Dock was coming out, so here is one very nicely modeled here. So sticking to the original color scheme, but we got some nice additions and modifications to that. You can see some scribing around on the skirt section there, especially on the shield there. It looks like too a little bit detail added onto that. Just very nicely painted Bond Dock. I definitely would like to work on another Bond Dock again in the future. So as you guys know, I did do like a custom Bond Dock, but I think I want to do another one in the future. It's a really fun kit to work on, so definitely recommend it for you guys. It looks like he added some detail up underneath the skirt section there as well. That looks very nice. Very cool. Here is just a little advertisement here for the HD Mechanics issue with the Zeta, the Gundam Forward issue. So these are just different magazines that they're advertising here that you can check out. Also the Gunpla Catalog version HD 40th anniversary, that also came out. I don't have any of those, so I won't be looking at those. Here we have the Jim Nightseeker, which was the P-Bandai release, but this is painted up really cool. Really like the simple painting and really nice colors on that. It looks fantastic. So looks like he's got a couple different head options that he made for that. One more kind of traditional head, or just one without the actual extra visor piece there, basically. Or maybe that's just without it on there. And different equipment for the head and different kind of antennas and stuff. That's pretty cool, actually. I like that. Then, of course, the Dictus. Yes, I definitely don't have this kit and don't ever plan on really getting one. I don't know. It's way too weird for my personal liking, but hey, it's certainly unique. And as you guys know, I like unique stuff, yeah, but I don't know, not this one. So there's a little bit of work in progress on that, but there you go. Yeah, it's the hand mecha. So basically filling in some bits and doing a little bit of modification to that just to kind of make it a little bit more nicer, but it's mostly sticking to out of the box on that. We have the X1 Crossbone X1 Full Cloth. This is using the HG, which is very impressive. The painted build on that looks very nice. It's got a little bit of weathering on there. It's kind of some subtle weathering, but looks really cool. It's kind of dirtied up a little bit, but it looks very sharp, especially for the HG. It's got some really nice painting on that. Yeah, it looks very cool. So some nice photographs of that kit over here on this side as well. So you can see the comparison between the original kit and his painted version. It's night and day how much better that looks. And the Macaknife gradation, I really like this. That's quite interesting. These parts he's added, I don't believe that's original to the kit. Did the original Macaknife have these parts on the back of the arm? The Reconquista and G line is like just such a mixed bag of mostly not very great kits. And yeah, I just checked to be sure, and it definitely does not have that aspect on the arms. If it did, I probably would have picked one up by now. But that is a really cool aspect to the design. I really like the look of that. So it's a shame that the model kit doesn't actually have arms like that, because that's really cool. But anyway, the Macaknife has been one that I've always been kind of tempted to check out, so maybe someday I will end up picking one up and building that and seeing what I can do with it. Because there are some cool designs. I think if you do the work, if you put in the work and give them the love that they need to look good, then the kits can look pretty cool. But yeah, it takes quite a bit of dedication. Here is the HG Heavy Arms, of course, so that's all been out for a while now. We're all very familiar with that kit. He's done a little bit of modification to some of these parts around the shoulder, it looks like, around the torso section there. And here's a look at the finished kit versus the new kit just straight out the box. Again, obviously it's going to look much better painted and with a little bit of modification in there. It looks very nice. It's a really good looking kit, I gotta say. That looks good. The Gundam Pluton, I did do a review of this kit. Really love this kit. Love the design. Fantastic kit. So this looks very cool. It's like the perfect mix of 00 MSV and a little bit of kind of Advanced Zeta vibes in there as well. So love the design of this Gundam. And that all looks very cool. See, there's a couple little work in progress photos for that one as well. Next up here, a little bit about using some different kind of simple weathering tools and things for the ARC-78. This one's using the entry grade kit, using some real touch markers. Looks like using some paint markers on that, using some like sponge chipping on that, and some more real touch markers just to kind of dirty it up, and then you end up with a weathered entry grade kit like that. If you guys remember, I do have that book that's kind of like all about the different techniques using the entry grade kit, and this looks very similar to what was in that book. So even though this is actually showing a different book, this is a different book, but actually another one that I would like to get if I can find it. It was kind of all about the ARC-78, if I remember correctly, something like that. Here's some more different kind of painting techniques with the entry grades. So like here, for example, the black base painting. So black and then building up your white on top of that to get this really kind of rich white. And the same thing with the reds. Painting up, building that up on top of that, going from a dark base to all these bright colors. Not easy to do, but I know it's something that Moki does. It's the first person, when I see painting like this, it's the first person that always comes to mind is Moki Plamo, if you guys are unfamiliar with his work. He paints like that. There's some cool little paint tips there for the entry grade Gundam. And here for a Zaku 2, making a little display base with this here, it looks like, using some kind of soft clay there to make a kind of stone base, and then just building up some materials and stuff on top of that, just to make it look a bit more realistic, like some rocks there. And with some moss and things like that, or I guess that would be foliage. Looks like moss, like for our scale, but I guess like in realistically that would be like some small foliage bushes and things like that. Here we got a pretty cool SD guy, just some very nice painting on that. That looks very cool. And I think that's probably getting to the end of then Hoshino Fumina. We haven't seen a whole lot of Fumina in recent history, but I guess this was closer to when that kit came out. So maybe, I guess, probably a yearish ago around that time. So fair enough. Here's a nice painted up kit of Fumina with the sweater on, without the sweater on, or cardigan, I guess I should say. All painted up. Very nice. Very cool. Road to Gunpla 40th and beyond. Here's taking a look at some hard graph kits and the new item information. So now we're getting, that's kind of like the end of the substance, of the material of substance. Now it's getting into basically advertisements for new products. So here's like the new Wing Gundam, the RG Zeong, some other just P Bandai kits. This is all P Bandai stuff that was coming out around that time, and a little comic there featuring the Tauros. Would love it to have an actual kit of that someday. Something other than the old 1/44 scale Tauros custom, which is very difficult to find. Here's some more advertisements here. We got something for the G-Frame, GPO2, some Robot Damashi, some Metal Robot Damashi, some version anime, Next Edge style, XS Gundam, all this good stuff. I don't remember this one coming out, but I really like that design. That's cool. With the Gundam Girls Generation 4 Murasame figure up there. Would also love to have that, but it's very expensive. And then we've got our poster in here, which on this side of the poster is going to feature the Argama Catapult deck, like what we saw on the cover, but a really cool photograph of that with the Zeta Gundam. On the opposite side is also the Zeta Gundam, but here's the Ka signature Zeta design there. So that's pretty awesome. Really cool poster included with this one. It's the kind of poster that you have to cut out of here, just kind of as a folded in part of the magazine. But up here next we've got the Gundam Fixed Figuration Zeta Gundam there. Looks very cool. And the Ka signature double Zeta Gundam, you can see over there as well. So a little bit about those. Got some Volks advertising over here. Some Metal Build Crossbone Gundam Full Cloth. This is all, I think pretty much all of this stuff should be out by now. This is a year later, so this is some other just gashapon things or smaller like candy toys. Here's the Mobile Suit Ensemble, Hainu and Nightingale up there. Some Seed Ladies. Some Exoframe research report, so a little bit information here. Some just kind of cool stuff about the Exoframes from Obsolete. And some cool artwork there for that. And then I obviously will have some kits from the series as well. So the Obsolete redundant file here. So you got some custom modeling of one of the Exoframe kits from Max Factory. Those are pretty cool. So that's a really interesting custom work on that. I do quite like that. And you can see some nice photographs of that. This would be the prototype Obambo is what he's made here. So here's like the artwork for that, and here's the actual model kit. So that's pretty awesome. And then we got, I'm just gonna flip ahead to see if I can find the name of this, but it's cool that they've got this whole section of some customized exoframe kits as well, because it's just something I've not actually really seen that much of around online. People, even just painting the exoframe kits, but especially customizing is just something I've not really seen a whole lot of. So it's cool to see that. There's just a ton of detail and things added onto this exoframe here. So very interesting. These kits are small too, by the way. If you guys have not ever built them, if you're not very familiar with them, these aren't very big. So seeing these really cool customs are pretty interesting. So this one's got some like big heavy machinery for like working, not actual combat. That all looks really interesting. Kind of the more basic exoframe there. Some more information just about the series and characters and stuff. We got some Super Asurada. Yeah, I don't really know anything about this, so just gonna kind of skim past that. Crusher Joe, I'm familiar with the name, but again, I don't really know too much about the series or anything. Got a big ship there. We got some Super Mini Pla over here. I've not ever built or worked with any of the Super Mini Pla kits either, but some of those look kind of interesting. So here's some other kits that are coming out on the way. The Getter Dragon from Bandai. We got a couple pages of information and some big photographs of that. The Tequila Gunner here, this is from the Max Factory line. A little God Hand Laboratory. Tips and tricks over here using, I guess, some new God Hand sanding products. So just kind of showing you how you can use some of those. Very cool. The 30 minutes missions complete. I did do a review of this book. That was a separate book just like dedicated to 30 minutes mission stuff. Custom builds and things like that. It also came with a kit and water slides, which was very cool. So check out the review of that if you missed that. That must have been about a year ago now, I guess, something like that, or earlier in the year anyway. The High Metal R Frontline Dragon R1 Custom. Very cool. Some Zoids stuff. This would be of the Tommy Tech variety, I believe. Yeah, it's not the Kotobukiya kits. So anyway, there's some Zoid stuff. You got some cool Zoids work. If you're into Zoids, especially if you're into the Tommy Tech Zoids kits, some nice modeling here of some of those. And then this one would be the Kotobukiya HMM kit that is now out. But there's that. Obviously, the Kotobukiya kit looks a lot nicer. And in my opinion, it has a lot more detail, a lot more articulation and everything. So definitely the version that I would go for if I liked this particular version of the design of the Liger. I don't really like this particular design, so I end up skipping on that one. Some more Next Edge style stuff here. The Max Factory Quo Maru. It's not normally the kind of thing that I would really be all that interested in, but I do kind of like the design of that. It does look pretty cool. So you got some photographs here of that, some work in progress photos of some small modifications to that. The Ultraman suit, another universe here. A bunch. This is a story, so I guess a kind of entry in sort of like just a little side story kind of episode here for the Ultraman series. So that's pretty cool. It's Ultraman suits, so you got some different like custom Ultraman suits, which look pretty interesting. I really like this one. It's just kind of mostly white, but it's got like the addition of some horns there on the head. Looks pretty cool. This like gold and green and black one down here also looks pretty interesting. It's a cool color scheme for that. So cool to see some custom Ultraman kits here. This one also quite interesting up there. Another, just like the line of Ultraman kits, I just don't really see very many of them like being customized or anything very often, so it's cool to see that. We got the Star Kanashia Tenki kit, which now that's been out. I reviewed that, and also the version Ganesha has now been out as well, and we've taken a look at that kit. But you guys know I love the Star Kanashia Megami Device kit. It's very nice. Definitely highly recommend you guys check it out. Any of the versions of that. So there's some cool modeling with that. The Ayaka Ichijo, another custom Megami Device kit here with an outfit made of actual cloth, so like a custom made outfit for and everything. That's pretty wild. So there you go. The Mio and Type 15 version 2 from Good Smile Company. So this was a kind of different release because I thought this was just like a figure, but is it like half a figure, half plastic model kit where the actual girl is a figure and then the shark is a model kit? Is that it? I don't know. It's a really cool design. I've often kind of thought about picking one up because I've always seen it around online, and I thought it looks really cool with like the mecha shark and the girl. So I'll have to look some more into that because I always thought it did look like a pretty cool design. And if it is like at least partially a model kit, then I'm a little bit more interested in it. So I'll definitely have to check that out. If I can find it, it might be one of those things that like now that it's out and it's been quite popular, it's probably going to be very difficult to find, but we'll see. Here's some Hoi Hoi-san action as well from Kotobukiya. The Hoi Hoi-san kit's also pretty fun if you guys are into the style of those. So I've done a couple of reviews on those. If you guys are interested, you can check those out, but those are pretty fun. This would be a non-scale resin kit here, Samurai Troopers Girl Reka no Ryo. Not anything that I'm familiar with, but actually it looks like what this is a conversion kit for a Frame Arms Girl kit, so that's pretty interesting. Now we're getting into some just more new release stuff that's coming out. You got some Bandai stuff here, some Hasegawa stuff down here. This is all just sci-fi related things. The MS General Mecha Musume kit down there, so it's interesting to see that included in here. Kotobukiya, Volks, Hobby Japan, Hobby Photograph, Volume 8. So some photography tips here, I guess, for taking pictures of your little 120 scale Vespa kit that was included, it's not a Vespa anyway, it's a Yamaha Bean, I guess it's called. Anyway, so Nomoken Act 29. So some more hobby tips here about top coat there, it looks like. Top coat showing the different types of top coat finishes on your parts. Very cool. Nomoken, if you guys are unfamiliar, is like a different kind of MOOC, just like different techniques and things like that. So it's a series. There's a series of them. There's a number of them out. So they're showing about using some different weathering products, and here kind of markers, more top coat using some different kind of so like this is with top coat spray cans. This would be with different top coats just out of the airbrush there. So that's good for reference. Nice to see that. The Kraken here, this is a custom Machine & Krieger build here. I can assume this is, it's from Max Watanabe. I was going to say from Koyokama, but it's from Max-san, from Max Watanabe. Custom build here of the Kraken using the Gladiator as the base for like the main body and everything, just like the kind of head part there essentially is different. So there's the team down there. Very cool scene with that, and there's some more work in progress photos and sketches and things for that. So that's really cool to see. And you got Max's signature painting style in the play down there. Over here we've got the Dachshund, a kit that I'm very much looking forward to finishing mine. Mine's all primed, but not painted yet. So that's on my to-do list, hopefully in the near future, once I'm able to. But that looks really cool. Oh, and what do you know? On the laser cannon, on the arm, he made a little open hatch gimmick, and I actually did the exact same thing on mine. I made the hatch a different part of the arm and like a little bit differently, but it's kind of interesting that we both opted for an open hatch on the laser arm. Kind of cool. So there's just more about that and some other new stuff coming out from Machine & Krieger. Obviously, the Kraken Vogel is now out, and this looks like some stuff from Rainbow Egg. Next, the scale model review, and this is going to be one of the character figures from the Campus Friends Set 2, and that's what that little Yamaha Bean that we saw before. This guy is from this same set of the Campus Friends, which I can assume we'll see here in a little bit, but here's some armor, new armor coming out, I guess, or armor modeling there. This one looks pretty cool, pretty wild tank design with these bits there on the side like that. That's pretty cool. Don't know if I'll ever really try out any tank modeling, but there are some cool designs, cool aspects of the design. We got some aircraft in here as well. Again, it's just not really my forte, so just kind of skimming past this stuff. Some ship modeling, it's really not my forte. That's getting pretty crazy. All the photo etch and everything in there, it's just nuts. But here's the Campus Friends Set 2 release from Tamiya. It's a set of figures. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, and then the little Yamaha scooter included in there. So really cool little set. I've got mine, but I haven't actually done anything with it, so just looking forward to figuring out some uses for some of those figures in the future. The Yamaha Vino. Oh, I read it as Bean, but it's, okay, sorry, yeah. Vino, right. Anyway, yes, I can read katakana. So here's some little customizing tips for that, which does look really nice if you wanted to just make that look a little bit nicer. Got some Porsches here. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Like I said, it's not my thing, but I can still appreciate some very fine modeling on those. Feature new products, other scale modeling stuff. A whole bunch of scale modeling stuff all coming out. And like display cabinets, Good Smile, Figma coming out. Very cool. Some Kamen Rider Toy Laboratory. If you guys are into that, Saint Cloth. It's a whole bunch of stuff that I just don't really know too much about. As usual, once we get to the end of the magazine, it's just kind of flipping through that. The Square Enix product, that was a big Square Enix figure that came out. It looked kind of interesting. Got some Marvel. Got some Diaclone World, Transformers kind of stuff. Joker. Let's just see if there's anything else really of too much interest here. I don't think so. Getting into some of our female character figures and stuff. From Naruto, some Desktop Army new releases looks like over there. So kind of interesting. Some more figures and Figma and little statues and dolls and all that good stuff. But I think that's probably going to be about the extent. Anything that's of too much interest for us for the sake of this video. So I'm just kind of getting to the end here. I think we can basically kind of wrap it up. As usual, guys, if you are interested in picking up these magazines, normally you just have to order them from Japan. I know at least for like in the US, it's kind of hard to import them just because they're magazines and books and stuff. They're heavy. They come out every month. Like logistically, it's not easy to like stock them in the US. So normally for these, if you want to get them, you just have to order them from Japan. And yeah, the shipping can be kind of expensive just because they're heavy, and yeah, for what it's worth, it's like a $10 magazine. It's going to cost you like $15 to ship it. So, but for me, I certainly don't buy every month's issue. It's just like if there's something in the magazine that looks like a particular interest to me, then I'll try to pick it up. So like with this one, I just wanted to see more about this hobby space, essentially, which unfortunately there actually wasn't really all that much in there. But there was some cool stuff in there just related to some hobby bases and some cool tips and tricks for that as well, which I'll certainly take into consideration for just things to learn, things to try in the future for my own personal modeling. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, just taking a nice leisurely look through another hobby magazine from a year ago. So a lot of the new stuff is not up to date anymore. But thank you guys for hanging out today. Of course, if you want to check out any of the model kits you've seen in there, you can check those out. What we've got at USA Gundam Store. The link and coupon code will be down in the video description for you guys to use as always. But until next time, thank you so much for your support, liking the video, commenting, subscribing. All that's greatly appreciated. I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day. Bye bye.